on this episode of Postcards.
Judy Garland being born in Minnesota, no matter how high of a star she became, and she hit the highest of heights in stardom, she is the quintessential American girl.
They used to call him Michael the Wooden Man because he had his wooden legs. But he said, I got a car, I'm Michael the Mechanized Man.
This program on Pioneer Public Television is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org. The Arrowwood Resort and Conference Center, your ideal choice for Minnesota resorts, offering luxury townhomes, 18 holes of golf, Darling Reflections Spa, Big Splash Water Park, and much more. Alexandria, Minnesota. Explore hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for a great vacation or a place to hold an event. ExploreAlex.com. Tri-State Brain and Spine Institute, with locations in Alexandria, Edina, Crookston, and Maple Grove. Doctors dedicated to evaluating and treating all types of brain and spine problems, no matter how complex.
The Judy Garland Museum was founded 40 years ago by a local artist, Jackie Dingman. And the concept was, and still is, to promote and encourage local talent. We always have a talent contest of some kind. So we honor stars from the past and encourage stars of the future. The Judy Garland Museum has the largest collection of Wizard of Oz and Judy Garland artifacts in the world. We have many, many original pieces from the film, Winky Spear, watercolor set renderings, lobby cards. And we have the carriage that brought the main characters into the Emerald City. All this Hollywood memorabilia has grown in value dramatically in the last 10, 15 years.
Judy Garland was born here in Grand Rapids, Minnesota on June 10, 1922, to Frank and Ethel Gumm, G-U-M-M. Her dad ran the local movie theater, and her mother accompanied the silent movies in those days on the piano, provided the music. Judy had two older sisters. Both of her parents and her sisters would get up on stage and perform between movies or as an extra added attraction. And from the time she was a year and a half old, they realized she could sing too. In this very room, at a piano in the corner behind me, her father was sitting down and taught Judy and a little neighborhood girl, My Country 'Tis of Thee, America, the song. And the other little girl kind of got it, but stumbled through it. Judy, one hearing, two hearings, zoom, a little piping voice, and it was like, baby gum is good.
Here's the three girls, the three gumdrops, who spent their formative years in this home. Mary Jane, ironically Dorothy Virginia, and Frances Ethel Gumm, who became Judy Garland. And their mother made these outfits for their shows in this home. Now what you're seeing is a complete restoration based on photographs that were discovered, oral histories, courthouse records. Everything has been restored, so it's as close as it possibly could look to when they lived here. The birch floors are original, the windows, the radiators, the front door, and the staircase. Now this was their natural stage where they would perform for the neighbors. The house was full of action, always. Her dad was a real showman, and her mom ran up and down the steps singing songs. People loved to come to the Gum House.
When she was 4, the family moved to California to get away from the Minnesota winters, purportedly. That was part of it anyway. And her mother was kind of ambitious, kept the girls on stage in Southern California. By the time Judy was 7, she was in short sound movies with her sisters. They were doing hundreds of live shows in theaters up and down the West Coast. And everywhere they went, and the older she got, the more people fell down, hearing this tiny little girl. Judy only ever got to be 4'11", even as an adult. So this tiny little girl who had this huge voice, by the time she was 10, 11, 12, it was this rich, full sound. And when she started to be heard around Los Angeles, by the time she was 13, she was under contract to MGM Studios. And they, in effect, developed her as a star in small supporting roles in movies in 1937 and 38, and then in 1939 catapulted her. Top 10 box office Special Academy Award, radio appearances. She made 30 movies for MGM in the space of like 14 years.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell.
Come lightning, come drizzle, come sleet, come cyclone, come earthquake. The people gotta eat. The Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe must be.
During the filming of Wizard of Oz, there were probably 9 pair of slippers. Some were used for the dance sequences. 1 pair was saved just for the special close-up shot. Only 4 pair have survived the film. We had 1 pair here on loan from a private collector in Los Angeles. The night that Hurricane Katrina hit land, it was a smash and grab robbery. They smashed the door here, came in, smashed the case, and they were out of here in less than 60 seconds. 1 sequin was found on the floor that had fallen off.
We are about 6 miles southwest of Grand Rapids, Minnesota, at a iron mine pit that was closed a number of years ago. That's a deep pit where we believe, due to our new information, that the ruby slippers are at the bottom of. And so we're checking that out today with divers, and it's going to be a fun time.
Our job here is just to really try to dispel the rumors as best we can. You know, there's been a big rumor since day one, since it happened in 2005, that the ruby slippers were discarded in this mine pit here. So we're going to look here and see what we find and do a real serious search for them. We have a group of, I think, about 6 or 7 divers now that are going to be going down here to try to do a serious recovery of the slippers.
So what'd you find?
I found a gauge for a deer. Looks like reds. That's what that is there, and a spoon from a fisherman. So, along with a lot of pop cans and beer cans. So
you think it's down there?
What's that?
The slippers.
Well, that's what we're here for, though, right?
Being at the Judy Garland Wizard of Oz Festival here in Grand Rapids, I am amazed by the devotion of the fans that are here, which makes sense just because Judy gave so much. I think the fans appreciate that. Today was the first day I walked into the museum here. Walking into this museum, if you are a lover of the Wizard of Oz, if you are a lover of Judy Garland, if you're a lover of great popular entertainment, you walk through these doors, and I'm from New York City. we don't have anything like this. I walked in here today and was just blown away by the sheer beauty and joy that is in every corner of this museum. And it's a credit to Minnesota. It is a credit to Judy, to the Wizard of Oz, that something like this is here. Sitting here in Judy Garland's house that she grew up in, the fact that this still stands, I think, it's a treasure, it's a monument. And again, this is something that should be cherished, and thankfully it is here. Judy Garland being born in Minnesota, I think it gave her a grounding in something of the Midwest aesthetic, and that of course is what Judy Garland's appeal was as a movie star. It was a persona that they put upon her, but they didn't have to really put it upon her. That's who Judy Garland was. I think the fact that she came from this environment, no matter how high of a star she became, and she hit the highest of heights in stardom, I think the fact that deep down she was that girl from Minnesota, she is the quintessential American girl.
I think the people are proud of her here. It just shows that, you can come from anywhere and be a star and be a success. Judy remembered only happy times here. We have a transcript of her talking about Grand Rapids years later, and she said it was the only normal, carefree time my family ever had. It was in that little white house in Minnesota.
Judy often said that, she might have been happier in her life if she'd never left Grand Rapids, if she'd never been put into that concrete mixer of Hollywood and Broadway and show business. She also said, too, if movies had never happened, she'd still be one of the Gum sisters in Grand Rapids. I think home is something she looked for. I think this is why she worked very, 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 very hard all of her life to try to find that kind of safe place. And in the process, she entertained and continues to entertain billions of people.
And now I want you to meet the winner of Looks Award for the Best Actress, the best performance by an actress in 1954, and she's been my favorite girl ever since she came over the rainbow. Ladies and gentlemen, the star of A Star is Born, Miss Judy Garland.
The best thing I can say to you about Judy Garland and her place in history is that Frank Sinatra once said, "We will all be forgotten, but not Judy Garland."
If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow.
Michael Dowling is my grandfather. I'm Barry Pritchard. I'm 83 years old, and I'm his oldest grandson. He died in 1921, which was before I was born. The stories I've heard I got from my grandmother, from my mother, from my aunts, and from other relatives that knew him. Michael Dowling was born poor but Irish in 1866 in Huntington, Massachusetts. And both of his parents were immigrants from Ireland. His mother died of consumption, what they called it, consumption at that time. So Michael was left without a mother at the age of 10 and traveled around with his father. He was they were on river boats. His father worked in Chicago, they worked in St. Louis, and so on. And he was on his own and self-sufficient self-supporting from the age of 12. If you can imagine that. And Michael eventually got a job herding cattle, taking care of some 500 cattle on the Dakota border and near the town of Canby. After the summer was over, he wanted to go back to the farm where his horse was going to be boarded for the winter, say goodbye to his horse. He hitched a ride on a lumber wagon. I suppose that was a flatbed with no sides to it. Well, that's when the trouble started. This terrible, terrible blizzard started. They ran into just a screaming storm front of snow. And the horse became disoriented, and the men became disoriented, and the wagon got off the road and it hit a furrow in a plowed field, and Michael Dowling fell off the back of the wagon. And he tried to run and catch up with the wagon, but he couldn't do it. And so he was lost, stranded, alone, in the dark, in the middle of a huge, terrible blizzard in 1880 on the prairies. He wandered around and wandered around and wandered around until he finally found a straw stack. He crawled head first into that straw stack and spent the night there. When he woke up in the morning, there was a house not too far away. He tried to get to that house. He got up, he took a few steps and he fell down. He got up, took a few steps and he fell down. His legs were frozen solid, like blocks of wood. When he finally got to the house, the farmers thawed him out and sent for a doctor. Fortunately, the doctor, Dr. Andrews, was a Civil War doctor who was very experienced on the battlefield and doing surgery, and he did a wonderful job then of amputating Michael Dowling's legs, both legs below the knee, the left hand, and all the fingers except the thumb on the right hand. He had lost all his possessions. He owned a horse. He had 5 head of cattle of his own, his 14-year-old boy. He had $200 in the bank. He had had to spend all his money, sell his possessions to pay for his medical bills. There was nobody to take care of him. Just some families in the town of Canby were taking care of him. So finally one day he was called in. He said, "Come up. The county board wants to interview you." So he was called before the county board of commissioners. There were only 3 men on the county. 2 of them were Norwegian farmers. One was a lawyer from out of town, or from out east. And they told Michael, they said, "Well, you don't have to worry about anything, Michael. The county is going to be able to pay for your care, and we found a foster family, and you can go live with that foster family, and you don't have to worry, they'll be taking care of you for the rest of your life." And that got Michael's Irish up. That was the most definitive moment of his life. He had to make a choice between whether he wanted to be a victim, taken care of by somebody else for the rest of his life, or if he wanted to have confidence and believe in himself and see what he could achieve on his own. He said, "No, I will not take your welfare. I don't want welfare. I'm not a cripple." He said, "I'm not a cripple. Give me 2 years, 2 terms, just 2 terms at Carleton College, and buy me a set of artificial legs, and I will never, ever take another cent of government money again from the county or anybody else. And that was the beginning of his remarkable life. When he finished Carleton College, he took several different jobs, but he eventually became a teacher in a one-room school out of Renville. And he was very active in a lot of things. He owned the newspaper in Renville, started the newspaper in Renville. He was always wanting to be first with everything. He was the first one in town to have a typewriter, modern technology. He was the first one in a one-room school to have a microscope for the children. He was the first person to ever own a car in Renville County. It was wonderful. You know, can you imagine? Here's somebody, really handicapped, and suddenly he's got a car, and he can go anywhere he wants. And they used to call him Michael the Wooden Man because he had his wooden legs. But he said, now, he said, I got a car, I'm Michael the Mechanized Man. Was the first person to ever drive a car from Minneapolis to Yellowstone Park. And my mother was along on that trip and took pictures, which are pictures I used in the book I wrote. He also was sent on a special mission, a secret mission, I believe, to the Philippine Islands during the insurrection that followed the Spanish-American War there. He was the secretary of the National Republican League, and he was a major fundraiser for President McKinley. So President McKinley appointed him to go over there on a special mission. His cover story was that he was there to reorganize the schools, the public schools, because they'd been Spanish schools before. They're going to reorganize them to be American schools. My grandmother, Jenny Bordwick, her father had been one of the families that had taken Michael in after he was frozen. And she was working as an assistant editor to the newspaper in Granite Falls. And my grandfather was publishing the newspaper in Renville. And the two of them happened to go to a newspaper convention together down in Atlantic City. And while they were down there, they went bicycling together and did different things. And they decided to get married. So they were married down in Atlantic City, and they came home on the train together. And that's how he got married. The family was kind of surprised because they always figured that he was going to marry Hattie, which was Grandma Jenny's sister. But he didn't marry Hattie, he married Jenny. And then the county organized, the Renville County, and they made Olivia the county seat. So he moved from Renville to Olivia because it had become the county seat. And then he became a partner in the bank there with the O'Connor family. The most inspiring thing is the Dowling School in Minneapolis, which was named after him, was originally a school for crippled children, is now an urban environmental learning center, but still has about 20% of the children there are, about 1 in 5, are special needs, handicapped, or disabled. He inspired other people to be what they could be. And that's how you really measure him. It's not what he did, it's how he inspired other people. He was so remarkable. He'd tell people, believe in yourselves, be all you can be, nobody is a cripple as long as your mind is clear. He always told people, he said, from the neck down, you're probably worth minimum wage. But from the neck up, your potential is unlimited.
Have an idea for postcards? Send your story suggestions to postcards@pioneer.org. This program on Pioneer Public Television is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org. The Arrowwood Resort and Conference Center, your ideal choice for Minnesota resorts, offering luxury townhomes, 18 holes of golf, Darling Reflection Spa, Big Splash Water Park, and much more. Alexandria, Minnesota. Explore hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for a great vacation or a place to hold an event. ExploreAlex.com. Tri-State Brain and Spine Institute, with locations in Alexandria, Edina, Crookston, and Maple Grove. Doctors dedicated to evaluating and treating all types of brain and spine problems, no matter how complex.